What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trading Decoded. It is May 8th, 2024. Happy birthday, Chris. It's my brother, if you're watching, which I don't think you do. Today was an unexpected yet pleasant day, at least in the first half of it, the morning. The market maker expected move was very tight. They were expecting less than $1 range. I think it's safe to say we exceeded that by a fair amount. And contracts were moving. Now, the beginning opened a little bit slow. But then once we broke through a level of resistance that we were looking for in order to take calls, she started to stretch her legs out a bit and paid many of us. But then we turned into a not so great chart shortly after that. And we watched a lot of people tear up some good profits. We watched a lot of people not take any trades until it was literally the worst time of the day to trade. It's the same old, guys. You're going to eventually learn the hard way, or you're going to run out of money trying to keep pushing through what's not working. Whichever the case is, it's my job, and I'm desperately trying to stop you from doing that before you run out of money. Okay. But let's go ahead and launch charts and see what we were looking at this morning. So this morning we were trending down in pre-market, and then we found a very, very solid support level down here that we never came back down, nor did we come anywhere near for the rest of the day. What we did do, though, is get back above the pre-market midline. And when we were getting ready to go into the open, the Qs were looking very choppy and not exciting. I told everybody for the call put scenario, I said, guys, I'm not going to put a call and put line on the chart today. Why? Because I'm not interested in trying to make people trade aggressively this morning. I wasn't happy with the downtrend with what we were seeing in pre-market. The volume was low. We had no reports, nothing to act as a catalyst. I was more worried about today being anything like yesterday and Monday. All right. Now, as we say these things, I always hope to be wrong, because trust me, I'd much rather have a chart to trade than spend my day keeping people out of a chart not worth trading. So even though we don't have a call put scenario, what I did say, because I want to also cater to my more aggressive traders, is, guys, this is exactly what I said. I won't take a single trade between our pre-market low and our pre-market high line. I would prefer that we're above. If we're looking for calls, I want to be above 515.74 on SPY and above 437.90 on the Qs. I'm sorry, 438.33. I wanted to be outside of our pre-market range on both charts in order to justify a call or a put. Now, the problem we had with puts was, if you break below this line here on SPY, you have room to go to your next support. Okay, that's fine. But you don't have much room to the downside on Qs. So we wouldn't have been able to take the puts because of the Qs, even if SPY got below this line. So we were going to have to be extra patient on the puts. But what I didn't want people to do was, because they saw this, and I know a lot of people have a put bias out there, and I'm semi-guilty of it myself. However, this morning, like I said, I was more concerned with the chart staying in a really tight range, which is why I wasn't interested in taking any trades until the criteria for one or the other of these trade options or opportunities were to come true. As luck would have it, or luck, I don't know what you want to call it, as price action would give it, we broke above our pre-market high line at 936, both on SPY and on Qs. Now, we are looking for at least a move up on the Qs to its next line. I wanted to see a gap close, so I wanted to close the gap up to the pink line. Okay. Now, as luck would have that, we ended up getting to Qs resistance right around the point where SPY was getting to its pink line. But would you look? Qs were putting in higher lows, higher highs. I told people right away. I said, guys, because I had a lot of people wanting to play puts. I said, guys, don't ignore the Qs. Now, there was two criteria to get into the calls here. There was also two things that made us believe we could consider becoming aggressive on the entry. First and foremost, Qs are coming off of a higher low. This is something that I would normally assume resistance is likely to fail. So if you are ready to take that trade, that is a time that I consider getting into these trades a little bit prior to maybe breaking the line. High or low. If we would have come up and then all the way back down to this support, I would have not taken that as an aggressive trade. But because the higher low tells me that the buyers are stronger at that moment, I'm willing to take the risk. We also needed Qs to hold support of that pre-market high line, which it did. Our stop loss on this particular trade, as I explained to everybody who wanted to know when we got into it. Guys, the only support at this time that we had below this line, if you didn't count the candle itself, was right here. This split candle. I was willing to say, and I said, guys, my stop loss on this trade is a candle close below 515.61. Okay, so I'm giving myself a 13-cent stop loss. Okay, now we got it. Some of us got into this trade a little aggressively because, again, as we talked about before, both SPY and Qs were coming off higher lows. So I do assume that at that point that this resistance is less likely to hold. So I'm willing to take it in. And at the same time, ADD was printing green as well. Okay, and then ADD started to trend up for the rest of this particular time. And it wasn't until mid-afternoon that ADD started to sell off. So as you can see here, we found several opportunities to get into calls. Number one, and the one only trade that I took, which ended up being a 43.7% winner, was entry, exit. We made it within 5 cents of the pink line. I did have some people who were holding till the pink line. That's why this 956 is here. And then we got to our first target high, which is the yellow line. Pulled back, found support right here. So we talked about the idea that if we reject here, we'd be looking for support here, which we found. If it gets through that, we're looking for support here, which it found. What we didn't want to do was start playing puts. Okay, so yes, we rejected putting in lower highs, lower lows, but it was still green. ADD was still pushing up. And I said, guys, I don't know that I'd play puts here, but if you're gonna, at least wait for a break below 516.07 so that we can look for the move to continue down to the blue line again. Okay, we didn't get that. It held support. We moved back up. Well, where would you want to get back in again? Well, it depends. Some people want to get in because we closed above the pink line. The only issue there is you've got a proven level of resistance right here. Okay, right there. So is the move from here to here worth it? No. If this holds as resistance, it's not worth it. If you get into this trade because you pretend like it won't be there, well, then it ended up being worth it. Okay, was it worth that risk? I don't know. You've got to look at other things. If Qs are still trending up, which they were, take the ride. If ADD is still moving up, which it was, take the ride. Okay, if you want to wait for all resistances on the day to be cleared, that was your entry here. Now at 1023, you had Qs moving up and hitting their next resistance. So every time we get to another resistance on the Qs, if I let my people know when we get there, right? It happened here at 1023, and then Qs hit another resistance here at 1028. We were looking for a pullback to buy calls on. Jimmy, when would you buy calls again if you weren't done trading for the day? I said, guys, well, we're pulling back to support on SPY right here. Okay, this is support. As you could see, it held. And we want to make sure Qs are on or near support. So let's go look at the Qs at 1034. Oh, would you look at that? Qs are on support as well. There's two exits that you got to consider here. Number one, you might want to play it from line to line on the Qs. If we close above that on the Qs, we'd expect it to run up to the next line during an uptrend, like clockwork. So some folks may have gotten out here as we move closer to those lines. I tell everybody, guys, move your stops up if you want to hold your trades longer. If we close above the line in an uptrend, we're expecting it to run up to the next line. Well, it did exactly that on not just this occasion, but this occasion. This is here again because the Qs ran into a line of resistance, broke through it, and then it stopped mid-channel. Okay, but the SPY hit resistance at that time as well. So whether it's a line on the Qs, which I tend to put more value and more weight in the lines of support and resistance on the Qs when entering and exiting my SPY trades or SPX trades, but you can't ignore the SPY ones either. I wish we can only trade the SPY chart. Unfortunately, those days are, for now, are over. Okay, the Magnificent Seven and the Qs are running the show right now. All right, they're running the show. Now, as we were talking about, because again, more and more people are wanting to get into puts because of biases. And, I tell them, hey, I don't like puts until we can get back below 516.78 or whatever the case is. And then you still have to watch out what the Qs are doing and what support levels exist below that. But for aggressive traders, we're rejecting here, close below support. We pulled back to resistance. So here we are at 1106, pulling back to resistance, both on SPY and the Qs. Now on counter trend trades, we say this all the time. If you're going to take that trade, make sure that you consider getting out at the next line of support down. Well, that was here. And then we got here. Okay. Now, what was happening here that there would have been a potential entry? Well, what was happening there was Qs had also closed below support. We were looking for the Qs to continue down to the next line of support. So you could have gotten in here. Some folks held the puts from here through this and made it all the way down to here. This exit is here because of this support. And then we kind of turned into a chart not worth trading. This got very choppy, very tight, random Twizzler candles brought us right back up. Another Twizzler candle right back up, putting in lower highs, but this was not paying very well and it was not comfortable to hold in, okay? But then we got into another situation. Jimmy, what would you be buying calls again if you were going to take another trade? Well, I'd like to be above 516.98 and make sure Qs aren't at resistance. So at 156, we go to Qs. I'm thinking they were breaking through a level of resistance at that point. 153, 156. Okay, yeah, so they were just then clearing resistance over here. Said, hey, I'll expect the Qs to head up to 440.03. Don't know how long that trade's going to last if you get in, but the Qs got to that line right here at 203. So again, these are late day, short trades. Ended up getting a good exit there because of the Qs. And then you just kind of got into a mess here. Now this was a fun candle. We had some people get into this trade at 258 and got out because we had an alert set. I had an alert set right here at 516.69. It beeped. But that ended up paying big. It was a crazy high volume contract wise candle. That was a phenomenon. But maybe they were just stopping out the any longs for stops so that they could run it up. Who knows? But long and short of it is, it continued to go up from here. Stopped at our fourth and final target of the day high. Actually, we had more up here, but yeah, and that was it. And then she sold off. My closing price guess was down here at 516.98. It started to make a run for it, and it ultimately got there just 5 minutes too late. 5 minutes too late. But that's pretty much it, guys. I'm desperately trying to help you people. Whether you're in my community or you're watching these videos, everything that I tell you is exactly what I use to take trades myself, hypothetically. And what I would like to do is convince you to at least try mental trading this stuff. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to trust my methodology with real money. Just wait for a trend to develop. Wait for a pullback in that trend. Learn how to draw support and resistance lines. If during that pullback, Qs and SPY are on a level of support or resistance during the pullback, take a mental trade. Say, you know what? This crazy bastard Jimmy, we're in a downtrend. We're pulling back to resistance. We're there on Qs. We're there on SPY. I'm going to take a mental put here. Tell me if it gets down to the next line of support more often than not. Also, if you want to add an additional layer of probability to that trade working out, see if ADD is moving in the same direction at the same time. Okay, then it becomes an A+ setup, which is something I never trade against. You don't have to trade with it, but just don't trade against it, okay? And the same thing to the upside. If we're moving up, trending up, wait for a pullback to support, check your Qs, see if Qs are on support. If the Qs are a decent way away from a support level, I wouldn't buy calls because SPY is on support. Because if Qs continue down to their support, that's say 20 cents below where it's currently trading, SPY is going to get through its support and get down and maybe find support once Qs does. You guys can watch this happen if you look for it. Trust me, just watch. Okay? Now, for those of you who got any useful information in this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. If you'd like to join our Discord community, well, there's a link down below. We'd love to have you. We have new faces coming in here every day. Not everybody continues to stay or be a paying member. That's okay. But as long as you're there for the 7 days, it is my goal and my hope that I'm able to teach you something that you don't know that might help you become a better trader in some way. Okay? I'm not one that's going to guarantee success in the long run. I'm not one that's going to guarantee overnight riches because that's ridiculous. Right? What I do promise you is that I will give you everything I've got to try and help you become better at this business. That's all I can give you. I don't guarantee anything. I'm not a call out service. Okay. This is an educational based community. So if you're here for anything other than the reason of wanting to learn how to become better, then don't bother. Don't bother. All right. I've been there, done that. I tried it the other way and it didn't produce anything but an entire group of dependents. You don't learn anything while you're copying anybody on anything. Okay? You take a test at school, you copy your neighbor's answers, you get an A, awesome. Teacher says, hey, you're going to retake another test on the same material with nobody else in the room, you're going to fail the test. Right? I don't want that for you. I want to not be able to show up and be on the microphone one day and you still be able to trade comfortably. That's what I want. And that's what you should want too. All right? Learn how to do this so you can feed yourself or help other people feed themselves. I've got very successful traders in my community that don't need to be in our community anymore, but they choose to stay there because they enjoy trading with their friends, number one. And number two, they're helping other people who haven't yet learned how to do this. It's called giving back, and it's quite a beautiful thing. All right. So with that, we're going to wrap it up. Hope you all had a fantastic day. Till tomorrow, I love you guys. See ya.